Hey everyone, welcome back. Today's review, we are taking a look at the SimonLine Balance from Axiom Discs. The profile of the balance is very thin, as it's both shallow and also has that flat flight plate. Now for backhand, that means that it doesn't quite fill the hand, so not necessarily the most comfortable, but for forehands it feels great because of how shallow it is, plus the flatter flight plate. The balance has come out with 3 different runs, the first being the Gyropalooza box run, and that I feel had a little bit higher of a shoulder, making it not feel nearly as shallow as the version 2, which ended up being the stock run, versus the version 3. Honestly, they looked exactly identical between the version 2 and version 3, and then versus the Hex. It's amazing to think the balance actually looks and feels shallower in the hand than the Hex, because the Hex is already a very thin profiled mid, so the fact that the balance is even thinner is truly remarkable. Now for the flight, the balance comes in speed 5, glide 5, turn 0, and a fade of 2. Overall, for slower arm speed players, those of us who can throw 350 feet or less, I feel the glide is closer to a 4 and the fade probably closer to a 2.5, but it's definitely very close. When thrown on a hyzer angle, that is exactly what this stock run of the balance is going to do. It is going to hold an arcing hyzer. It's going to get no inkling to flip up to flat and ride too far out straight. It is just going to hold that hyzer angle. And once you do start putting out flat, it will ride out straight for about 2/3, maybe 3/4 of the flight, at least for us slower arms. Bigger arms, it's going to ride very, very straight, but then at the end of the flight, it does have that really predictable hard finish. At least, again, for us slower arms, a very hard finish, versus for those bigger arms, it's just going to be a very gentle hyzer finish. And with that combination of resistance to high-speed turn as well as low-speed fade, it makes the balance perfect as a wind-fighting mid-range, but not only that, when you do start putting it on anhyzer lines, it is something that's going to fight out of those anhyzers incredibly quickly, as you can throw this with quite a bit of anhyzer, and depending on how steep you put it, it may hold a bit, but it's still going to level itself out pretty quickly, and depending on the height, you're going to get a pretty significant dump at the very end. Or like this, when you throw it really low or get the wind to push it down towards the ground, it won't get too much fade. And once again, since it does have that combination of high-speed turn and low-speed fade, and with that flat flight plate and very shallow feel, the balance is truly incredible when it comes to forehand. It's something I can really trust, really rip into, and again, into the wind, I know it's going to hold. It may straighten out a little bit, but even into a significant wind, I don't have to worry about this thing turning over into an accidental roller. So if you're looking for a torque-resistant mid-range with a shallow feel that is very predictable both for forehand but also in the wind, well, the balance might just be what you're looking for. Okay, enough about showing it off in a wide open field. How about out on the course? Well, for one, just those wide open hyzer shots, something that you can really hold it out wide and just let that nice arcing hyzer and that fade bring it all the way back into the target. And then those one angle spike hyzers. This thing, again, it's not going to flip up to flat or anything. You don't have to worry about it, so it holds those spike hyzers incredibly well. Also, surprisingly enough, this thing can skip decently when you get it on edge there, so those short skip shots, it does a great job for. And with how predictable it is, if you need to get into that one landing zone to really set up your next shot, the balance is great for those placement shots. Also, I can't mention it enough, but forehand approaches or drives, yeah, the balance is just so predictable, it has you covered. Let's talk different plastic types, or in the balance's case, different runs, as it has 3 different neutron runs. First, the Gyropalooza, which was the first run. It has the version 2, which became the stock run, the version 3, but also does come in fission plastic, which I do apologize, I do not have one. Earlier I mentioned that the Gyropalooza run feels a little bit deeper in the hand than the version 2 or the version 3 runs, and it's also the most overstable of the 3, as when thrown on a backhand, it is just going to hold spike hyzer lines effortlessly. Same thing with forehand, but also if you do throw it on a little bit of an anhyzer, you can always trust that it's going to fight its way out and keep you in the center of the fairway. Then you have the version 3, which I think is the best for players of slower arms. It's the most workable, it's the strongest straightest. This is just a perfectly straight flight with just a predictable finish. If you're a bigger arm speed player, this flight you're seeing here, this is what the version 2 or the stock run is what you're probably going to get. But as a slower arm speed player, I love this for just those really straight, either backhand or forehand shots that just has that nice predictable fade at the very end. For the Lefty Lines, let's take a look at all three of these side by side. First, starting with the version 2 or the stock run. When thrown backhand, it rides out straight again about 2/3 of the way through the flight, and then it starts to have that really nice noticeable finish. Versus the Gyropalooza, it checks up so much sooner, about half of the way through its flight. It is already on that hyzer angle and just dumping to the ground. Versus the version 3 gets about 3/4 of the way through its flight before it starts to check up, and also has a little bit more distance potential than the other two, at least for a slower arms, because it is a lot straighter than the other two. So if you're a slower arm speed player, I would highly recommend the version 3. The version 2, maybe if it gets seasoned in, but for sure the version 3. If you are needing just something pure beef, look for one of the Gyropalooza runs. And for those of you wondering, hey, how does this stack up against either the Hex or the Pyro? Well, don't worry, I got you covered, as I am currently working on a balanced Hex and Pyro comparison video. The SimonLine balance really is just that. It is balanced both backhand and forehand. It does exactly the same thing. It holds those arcing hyzers, both forehand and backhand. It holds very straight forehand and backhand shots. This is just such a predictable mid-range that I think is going to be a workhorse in a lot of players' bags, both in calm and also in those windy days when you need something that's extremely trustworthy. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to subscribe and also smash that like button. Also, go visit Great Lakes Disc for all your disc buying needs. Till the next time, everyone, keep banging chains.